Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your master of monster movies and the host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters. Today, as you might guess, we are going to be talking about quite the most unbelievable monster movie of all time, maybe. Well, it says so in the title, Varan The Unbelievable. Now, we are just going to be dealing with the US version, the heavily localized version, as it says in Wikipedia, which is just like whatever. Because that's the one I'm most familiar with. I've been watching this movie since being a young agent, around 8 years old or 9 years old. Well, we'll get into how I watched the movie. But before we get too much further in here, please like, share, subscribe, vote in the poll, leave a comment. And I don't know if there'll be a poll, because what's the point in comparing the two versions? Neither of them are great shakes. I'll tell you what. So, and if you're watching, wherever you're watching or listening, please listen for a couple minutes longer. It'll really help the algorithm. So, grab yourself a big old bowl of hummus of perfection, your favorite delivery method, and let's get on with it. All right. Thank you, Surf Coasters. So here's our poster. It's a pretty great poster, I gotta say, even if it doesn't look a bit or really have anything to do. It's got the two stars, main stars, Myron Healy and Tsuroko Kobayashi, and a cast of thousands. They give some of them credit, but none of the Japanese cast or crew get any credit at all in this movie, which is all right. It is what it is. I mean, it's astounding to think that they brought this over. Now, legend has it that Toho was approached by American Broadcasting Paramount Theaters, AB-PT, to co-produce a movie. And then the funding fell out, so they had shot some in Academy ratio, which is television ratio, and then they blew up that so they could get to the widescreen ratio. I don't know. I wasn't there. It doesn't really matter. I have not watched the Japanese version, the original version, in ages, simply because it's, like I said, it's not any great shakes either way. It's fun. The monster, Varan himself, is great. But other than that, it's like, eh. But I like it because I had the 8mm version before I ever saw the movie. So these people are like old friends to me now. This is how it starts. We'll talk about the 8mm version in a little bit.
When modern Navy scientists defy the unknown mysteries of the past, perpetuated by centuries of native belief.
That makes no sense right away. What happens is, in the American version, our hero, Myron, let's see, where are we here? Does it say this here? No. Myron Healy as Commander James Bradley and his lovely wife, Tsuroko Kobayashi, as Anna Bradley, are stationed on some island off the coast of Japan. There's only one major city, Onita. In the Japanese version, it's Tokyo, but who's going to believe Tokyo? We keep getting attacked by monsters over and over. So they just changed the name, which is what they did with Rodan as well, I believe. No, maybe somebody said they didn't. Be that as it may. So this is in the monster is called Obaki, but James Bradley, Commander James Bradley, that is, Myron Healy, is conducting experiments to desalinate water so that it can be drinking or whatever, which they've been doing for as long as I know. Now, the movie was released in Japan October 14th, 1958, and in the narration he says it's 1959, October of 1959. And let's see, where are we going here? So it was not released in the U.S. until December 12th, 1962 by Crown International. And, so there was a bit of a time lag there. And once again, they followed the Godzilla and Godzilla and Gamera method, although Gamera was still 4 years away from being released. But the Godzilla method of inserting, you know, English speaking actors. There's a lot of Japanese in here. There's the title. This copy I got was from Konstantin Furman, who does great work. If you need his contact info, let me know. I'll point you in the right direction. Myron Healy and Sirocco. Now, it's a black and white movie, and it's kind of hard to see some of the pictures, so I've thrown some color shots in here just to break it up. But here's part of the press kit, or showmanship manual, as it was called. 70 minutes. So not a single Japanese name there, but several here. I think they used every Japanese actor in LA at the time that they could, or at least Asian actor. And here's your synopsis. If you want to read it. Kunashirashima is the name of the alleged island. Anyway, there's our actors. Like I said, Shimatsu Kawa. All these are, as far as I can tell, Japanese names, except for maybe Michael Sung. But in those days, it didn't matter if they looked Asian, they were Japanese or Chinese or whoever they needed to be at the time. So long story short, his desalination projects awaken Varan, and Varan is from the Varanus family, which is Komodo dragons, and coincidentally, I believe mosasaurs are in that family. But the Komodo dragons are a real thing. Varan does not look a thing like them, but he looks great. I love the monster. So I don't know who Sid Harris was. He doesn't get a credit in IMDb at all, just American version. But they call him Obaki. Varan is never mentioned unless you listen really closely, along with Akira Fukube's score. You can hear it in one shot, and I believe it's both the same shots. So they call him Obaki, the monster or demon of the deep, whatever, of the lake. So I just like this. Glenn did the sound, which tells me, of course, it was shot in L.A. because that's the L.A. film studio that did dubbing for various things, like Godzilla's Revenge or King Kong Escapes. Boris Badenoff himself was a member of did a lot of dubbing at Glen Sound, Paul Frees. So here's a lovely establishing shot of the lake. And there's Anna. And there's our hero smoking away, because that's what they did back then. And what are you going to do?
Then nature strikes in all its vengeance in.
Well, they're not going to tell us right away. There's Matsu, the Japanese boy who's hired by the Bradys to clean around. They give him money, probably $1 a day or something. He's wearing a mask, so you really don't see him. There's his slight face. So it's important that he has his mask on, because later on you see other people. Now, this is Clifford Kawada as Captain Kishi. They have a good rapport with each other. And a lot of people complain that Commander Bradley is the ugly American, but actually he's pretty sensitive, I thought, especially even to his wife. They don't mention how they met or got married, but it's an interesting thing it's just interesting. We'll leave it at that. Matsu is played by Derek Shimatsu. So, but he only shows up a little bit here and there. He's not around too much. So, he's not named Ken. Here's just an establishing shot. The editor there, I don't know if who did it. Jerry A. Barowitz directed and produced it, and they stitched it together pretty well, all things considered. I don't know, the Japanese version runs 87 minutes, so they took out a lot and just left mostly the monster footage. Here's our sensible Japanese heroes. They name drop him quite a bit, but we don't see either of them. It's Yuriko Ayumi Sanada, and I want to say Kozi Nomura. Kozo Nomura, not Cozy. Although they might have been cozy with each other. What do I know? But they're butterfly hunters, essentially. So that's what brings them over there. And then we don't know that. They're reporters in the American version. And sees, I think they have a really good rapport with each other. It's nice to see. There's Matsu's Japanese original wearing the mask. That's why it's important there. He's leading the couple there around, and they're getting ready. This is where they're about to shoot the desalination into the water. And of course, everyone's taking notes. It bubbles. He's all happy, even though it's killing the fish in the salt fish in the lake. I mean, I just don't understand. And there it goes down. There's the dead fish. Both of these shots really remind me of the creature from the Black Lagoon with its iocane powder. Not iocane, duocane, monocaine, maybe. We do have to talk about the creature from the Black Lagoon. We should have done a should oh I did do an episode about him overall, but the first movie was released 50 years ago this year, so and it's one of my favorites. Guess who pops up there? There's Varan's legs, or Obaki. Soldier sees him and dies of fright. Boom. And then of course all the tanks, because the natives of the village don't want to leave because they say they're stubborn Japanese, but so there's our first almost look at Varan with his spikes. They glow a bit. At least in this movie, it looks like they glow. They're very bright. Tell me if that's not Bronson Canyon right there. And I'm pretty sure it is because I've been there. I should show my footage of that. That'd be fun. And there they are, our heroes, looking around and blah, and just jibber jabbering. And what are they running? Why are they shooting? And then they see why they're shooting. So here you can see this is a front shot of Ron. Once we get to the side there, so here's our Japanese cast, most of them. But we really don't. They don't do anything. There's some talking and some footage of them, but not much. Aside from being friends of Anna, they've got Anglicanized names, first names, but they really don't come into the movie till the very end about anything. There's Varan. Nice frontal shot of him just walking. Shot really well. The miniatures are great. I mean, Tsuburaya, of course, they're great. The music, Ifukibi's score is great. Ifukubi's score is great. If you want to hear it, you can hear a lot of it in Yog, Monster from Space, which we will do one of these for as well because I love that movie. And here's a color shot of Varan flying, which he does, but he does not do in the American version because, he just opens his wings, his membranes here like a flying squirrel, and lifts off. But this was his shot in his he appeared for 2 scenes in Destroy All Monsters, 1968's my favorite Godzilla movie, of course. And that was it. And it was a maquette. It wasn't even a model of Varan. So this isn't even the real one flying. It's just a model. But it's a great that's how he would have looked in color. And Rodan had already been produced in color. So why this? I mean, obviously, if this was an American co-production at the start, would be why it was still in black and white, because it was going to be on television. Now, again, we don't know. We'll never know exactly everything. I mean, Augie may tell me I'm wrong, and if he does, I'll admit it. I have no problem with that. So here we go. It's a great suit. I mean, it's not overly ornate. He has no special power aside from being able to fly. In one of the Godzilla books that came out, I want to say in the 90s, it was explained how Varan could fly with air sacs and things, and it didn't make any more sense than him just being able to glide. The books were fun, don't get me wrong, but why do I try to talk you through it? Just say this is what happens. He floats. So we're gonna get a bunch of Varan shots. Here's some stock footage of planes. This is a flaw in the film. There are no really good American. I think somebody has said there's this 35 millimeter print floating about, and there's got to be a negative of it, right, somewhere. But Toho won't ever let this be released, probably. It might be in the public domain for all I know. But so there's our heroes saying, "What should we do?" Or they're sleeping. I don't know which. So here, Varan's just destroying the village. I don't remember the name of the village. Just sue me. And some great destruction shots. Now look at these widescreen. He goes from side to side there. Right, look at that. That tells me that a lot of the movie was shot widescreen in Toho scope, but it's called Toho pan scope for whatever reason. I mean, well, because go figure. Um, we're not really going to talk too much about that, but the destruction scenes are great. That is Haru Nakajima inside the suit, and you can tell the suit's a lot lighter and a lot more mobile than that first Godzilla suit was, or even the second one, probably. The second one's pretty mobile. So here's the cave that he looks in and sees, because he goes after the three humans. I'm assuming that in the Japanese one, it's the other humans. And he reaches in. So they combine this, or they made his claw reaching in. And that's our Anglican cast. So, here's a lovely, if kind of boring lobby card. I mean, of all the lobby cards you could do, was Myron Healy that big a name to draw on? I don't think so. I probably should have just ditched this one. But the flares have been dropped, so Varan is easily distracted. In some of the books back then, he was described as a flying squirrel, which is not really adequate because he's a reptile. But that's the thought. When I saw the movie or was going to see it for the first time, or even the 8mm version, this scene is in the 8mm version because there's a picture of the little. Every time the Japanese armies get together, they always have a model of the monster, and I was always jealous because I wanted a model of the monster. This actually kind of looks like Gamera, doesn't it? But Gamera hadn't been invented yet. So he's about to attack a ship because Japanese monsters hate ships when they're swimming. Mothra destroyed him. Godzilla destroyed him. Just name it. Nearly every Japanese monster has destroyed a ship at some point in time. But here's the mask, the model that they used on the water, which doesn't really look like the face of the costume. Here's our obligatory army scenes, and there's the little monster model again. But the water scenes are good. I mean, this looks like the critter. Lovely plane shot here, and then boom, wipe out. I don't know why it keeps embiggening itself. So the film critics derided this as very much a cheap movie. And they used footage, but Toho had access to the army, and they used all kinds of footage that they could get. Shiro Honda directed this, and Tomoyuki Tanaka produced it, and of course Tsuburaya-san did the effects, the holy quadrology, I suppose. But that's a real ship there that they're on. They're not just fooling around there, because to get the lighting crew and everything into a cramped quarters, well done. Here's Varan hiding in the bay underwater because it can swim and fly. It's truly a trifibian monster long before Gappa was. And there's a nice shot. He's in Tokyo now, or Onita City, and wiping stuff out. Action shot here where they're shooting at him. Another lobby card, which is just beautiful. It came to terrorize, just to destroy and revenge. Revenge what? I mean, they did wake him up. He was peacefully sleeping on the bottom of the lake, so it's kind of mankind's fault. Here is a shot. They swiped some shots from Godzilla or Gojira. Take your pick, and just to probably cut the costs because they were working on a deadline. But they used several of the airships. The planes, the jet fighters attacking Godzilla, they kind of you can see and which ones they are if you're looking for it. If you're not, as a kid, when I first saw this on the television, I didn't know because we didn't know the background behind the movie. Oh, let's get a little more of the trailer here. I keep forgetting.
Varan The Unbelievable. For generations, the legend was passed on. They said Varan was there, deep in the still waters. They said, let Varan sleep. That lake water's going to be contaminated after we finish the tests. It'll probably affect the fish, too. We just can't take any chances.
But those people have depended on their lake for their livelihood all their lives, and their parents before them.
Anna, now should we be this concerned about a handful of people when we might perfect something that could benefit all mankind?
All right, Jim.
All right, Jim. So there's Varan. Tell me that these. We're going to go back a minute. They look like they're glowing, don't they? I mean, I would have done it. Glowing spines are always cool. But he's a really basic. He's not too ornate, but he's well designed. They do a really good job of hiding Nakajima-san crawling around on his legs, on his back leg, hands and knees. And Varan does get to be bipedal quite a bit, like right here. They hit him in the head with a shot there. So here's some more flares, and mysteriously, Varan eats them. Now, there's a reason for this because the American movie, kind of reversed how they get rid of him. But since I haven't seen the Japanese movie in probably a decade, if not two, couldn't tell you 100%. And I know it says there in Wiki, if you want to read about it, click on the link in the description.
The commander would not heed their warning. He moved forward, ever searching, ever probing deeper and deeper, until it was too late.
Tell me that's not Paul Frees himself narrating this trailer. I mean, he probably got $100 to do his lines if he did it. I mean, but it sounds like him, doesn't it?
Varan rose from the depths slowly, unrelentingly, to wreak its vengeance on a civilization that wanted to know too much. Tumultuous.
So that might not be him, but it sure sounds like him. Here's it once again. Okay, so we're getting toward the end of the movie now. We're about to see the 8mm cover. These are the Japanese heroes, Paul and his wife. I don't know. And there it is. So I got this as a birthday present or a Christmas present. It was only 8mm. It wasn't Super 8 because we didn't have a Super 8 projector. But we watched it. Incidentally, I believe I mentioned this, but the preview attractions were a Little Rascals short in a haunted house, and Spanky had left he'd left the series. I think he came back, but he was only alfalfa, buckwheat, and Porky. But I mean, that took up like 30 or 40 seconds at the end of the movie preview attraction, which didn't really. I mean, so Paul here, and I'm using the name, takes the truck and down. It's how they're going to get rid of Varan. Runs down, and then he has to run back because the truck's going to explode. And of course, we watched this. And once I got a more advanced film projector that played Super 8 and regular 8, we could rewind it and watch it. And he fell down and jumped up and fell down and jumped up. But it's been. I've watched the movie, the 8mm version. I watched a lot. It finally aired on Channel 2, KWGN, our wonderful station. Probably not until the either late 70s or early 80s, because it was a big deal when it was going to be on and we got to see the entire movie. And then we're like, this is okay. I mean, but at some point, Damon Foster, in his amazing Oriental Cinema magazine, fanzine, talked about how he'd seen, I don't know if it wasn't this movie, but he'd seen a movie for so long on television that they've become old friends. Like you know them, you like them, just because the whole movie itself is an old friend of yours. So it's kind of comforting to see it again. And I believe that about this movie. It's not great, but I like it. It's not my top 10, maybe even top 20 Japanese monster movie list. Maybe it probably is because it's not great, but the Japanese version isn't great either. It's like Godzilla Raids Again or Gigantus the Fire Monster. Neither version is great. So when you hear, some people claiming that the Japanese version is so much better, it's like, really? Are we watching the same movie here? I don't think we are.
So awesome it will shock you to the core.
No, it won't. But this is what happens. Kaboom! And this is in the U.S. version, this is the saline, the anti-saline that they blew up under there, and that's what's going to get rid of Varan. And it does. He goes out into the water. They don't find him, and they actually say that. But if he comes back, we've always got my anti-saline that we can explode on him again. We can just drop it on him, which is kind of mean. But I mean, he just probably goes back there until when he's imprisoned on Monster Island or Monsterland in Monsterland on Agasawara Island, in the late '90s, I would assume. They don't tell us how they got him there. We barely see him, and he can fly like Rodan. That's the only time you get to see Varan fly in the U.S. But on the DVD that Shock, I don't know, somebody released, they do have the original. They have it dubbed or subtitled, and they have a TV version for some reason. Everyone thought it was going to be Varan, and it wasn't, or the Unbelievable, the English version, and it wasn't. So this is about as good as it's going to get, as far as I can tell. Unless somebody finds that 35 millimeter version and gets it out there. So here's most of our Japanese cast saying goodbye to Varan. And there we go. We get the closing narration. And, let's listen to the rest of the trailer here.
Varan The Unbelievable.
Yeah, you did need to hear that. So, Commander Bradley. Yeah, Commander Bradley tells Anna they're going back to the States because there's a large salt sea in California. Now, in 1950, I do believe that the monster that challenged the world was set in the Salton Sea. So it went south pretty quick, that whole Salton Sea thing, where now it's very, go look at that documentary. It'll tell you what went on. But, they could have been useful there against the monster that challenged the world. And he would have laughed as, Rodan would have eaten him for lunch. Be that as it may, so that's the end of the movie. The end. So he's going to use his desalination on the Salton Sea, which, obviously didn't work. But we're back to Obaki there, and they mention Obaki many, many times, but not Varan. So once again, I do enjoy the movie. It goes by in a hurry. It's only 70 minutes. Might only be about 68, 69 minutes, really. But, is that it? I thought I had some more stuff in there. I just moved it all about. So if you can see this one, it's, don't go in with high hopes. You'll be entertained. It's just standard. It's better than your standard American monster movie, your cheapo ones, because it's got higher production values. But it also is not as, it doesn't make a lot of sense overall. So my fellow agents, if you do hear of anyone trying to desalinate a lake for some reason, desalinate, don't believe them. And until our next assignment, this is X7 signing off.
When modern Navy scientists defy the unknown mysteries of the past, perpetuated by centuries of native belief, then nature strikes in all its vengeance in Varan The Unbelievable. For generations, the legend was passed on. They said Varan was there, deep in the still waters. They said, let Varan sleep.
That lake water's going to be contaminated after we finish the tests. Probably affect the fish, too. We just can't take any chances.
But those people have depended on their lake for their livelihood all their lives, and their parents before them.
Anna, now should we be this concerned about a handful of people when we might perfect something that could benefit all mankind?
All right, Jim.
But the Navy commander would not heed their warning. He moved forward, ever searching, ever probing deeper and deeper, until it was too late. Varan rose from the depths slowly, unrelentingly, to wreak its vengeance on a civilization that wanted to know too much. Tumultuous, terrifying. So awesome it will shock you to the core. Varan, the Unbelievable.